And as we moved off, Colonel Ottaway suggested that as I should have landed near Ranville, a young officer, engineer I believe he was, and I should head that way because he was responsible for areas of Ranville. So the two of us set off, and after a few exciting encounters, we were actually fired on by some of our own troops. We got to Ranville late on in the afternoon, just as the 6th Airborne gliders were swooping in. They were coming in, the bulk of them were coming in. And I arrived at my destination, which was Ranville. Well, we then had to clear Ranville, which I think there was a company of the German 21st Panzer Division were based there. But with the Parazot and that's, we cleared it, and we set off to set divisional headquarters up at a place called Les Basses Ranville, just on the outskirts of Chateau. But the Germans had it zeroed in, and we took quite a pounding, and that was where quite a lot of our lads were lost from our platoon, and some of the senior officers were wounded and badly killed. So we moved up to an esplanade, higher ground at Ranville, and there we were there for the next, I would say month. At night we were tormented and bitten alive by mosquitoes. The Germans had flooded the whole area, and these mosquitoes had been breeding there, so we had that torment. And the Luftwaffe coming over at night, who were bombing at random. As soon as it was dark, over they'd come. Also, the Germans were attacking us from, it was, I'm trying to think, Breville. Breville Ridge, which is a series of hard high ground just to the north of us. And then we realised they'd brought a new division in from Le Havre, 20,000 odd men with self-propelled guns and tanks, who kept probing and attacking us for the next month. They actually were on the verge of breaking through, I think it was a week after D-Day, when General Gale, who was our divisional commander, he was nicknamed Windy Gale, shoved all the reserves he had in, and we counter-attacked the Germans at Breville and managed to drive them out. But we lost nearly 200 men in taking it. Lord Lovett, who was in command of some of the commandos there, was badly wounded, and 2 commanding officers of the parachute battalions were killed. But the Germans were driven out and never got back into Breville again. And we found out that later in the war that we had taken heavy casualties, but we'd inflicted even heavier casualties on them. We knew that because commanding officer of one German division was brought in, wounded, and he was in tears, and he said we'd destroyed his division. That was the German 7th 111th Division, Infantry Division. We'd practically wiped it out. But as I say, we had taken heavy casualties.
Did you ever think the invasion might not work?
No, because I wasn't in knowledge of all the facts. It was touch and go for about 10 days afterwards whether the Germans broke through or not, but we managed to hold them. But that was when we were taking heavy casualties, and especially at Breville Ridge. They had that new division there who were piled up high on it, and they nearly broke through, but he threw everything we had in on Breville Ridge and managed to drive them back. There was a tableau of horror at Bridge. Attached to us was the 5th Black Watch, and in one little slit trench there were 5 lads of the Black Watch with cards in their hand, playing cards, all dead. They'd been playing cards and a shell had burst just above them. Whether it was concussion or not, But these lads were sitting there with playing cards still in their hand, dead. And another one, a German and a Canadian para. A German had bayoneted the Canadian para to the tree. And the Canadian para, as he was dying, had drawn his fighting knife. We carried a fighting knife down a slit in our trousers here. He'd rammed it into the German's back, and both of them were dead. And that was another scenario that.
How did the civilians treat you when you got to France?
We didn't see very much of them. And I think they were a bit worried about themselves, and every right to be so, you know, because we were creating carnage there by landing, you know, so. But basically, they were on our side, you know. But the Germans had behaved themselves in Normandy. There hadn't been a lot of SS and stuff going on there. They'd actually been reasonably well behaved. French women were doing their laundry and things like that, you know.
So what do you remember most about the invasion when you went in?
I don't know whether it was fear or excitement, both. Fear and excitement. But once I'd met up with other people and we knew what we were going to do. You just followed orders. You were trained to such a degree in the Airborne that you didn't need a second command. If you were told to do anything, you did it. There was no argument about it, you did it. And we were all trained to that degree to do that. But I think that was why we were better than other units, because everybody knew what their job was, and we were trained to do it. And pride in the regiment as well entered into it. We were up on the Esplanade, which was overlooking Ranville, and I could see right away in the distance. And we're manning a Horlikin gun there, it's 20mm Horlikin gun, which we used at night because the Luftwaffe never showed their nose during the day. It was at night they'd come droning round. And as I say, mosquitoes, after the first fortnight, things quietened down for us. So then once we'd taken Breville and pushed the Germans off the ridge, ours was then defensive duties. We were getting shelled, but things were a lot quieter than they had been. Give us time to dig a bit further in.
Did you get attacked at all while you were digging in? Did you get attacked at all?
Well, they did attack us with self-propelled guns on a few occasions, but they were driven back by artillery. They're usually about a company of Germans, right about 100, and probably a couple of self-propelled guns had come. They were probing attacks, if you will. For the next, from 2 months, we were holding the left flank of the invasion area, preventing the Germans from getting through to the beaches. And during that time, we were taking steady casualties and inflicting heavy casualties on the Germans. But in the beginning of August, we were given the orders to advance, and we pushed up the coast. This was during the period of when the main breakout occurred near Caen. Well, we advanced up the coast. We took Duville, Trouville, and I must admit the Germans fought a very controlled rearguard action with self-propelled guns. They'd mined all the main roads, so we were forced into the fields. And at the end of August we were reinforced with a Belgian brigade. We were that badly depleted. And I reached the area of Honfleur. Round about all that area, the Germans had blown the bridges and retreated into Havre. And at that they said our campaign in Normandy was at an end. We were being taken home to be reinforced. We found out later that we'd taken, of the 9,000 of us had gone in, 4,900 were killed or wounded or were still missing. The missing, most of them had been drowned. Those that weren't captured were drowned in the swamps. Because if you remember, the paratroopers dropped with a kit bag attached to the leg, a rifle attached to the other leg, and with the heavy equipment, if you went down and you went into above 5 or 6 feet of water, you had it.